Another false alarm. More evidence of a fire underneath the bridge. Remember what happened at Cheshire Bridge? This is why. More evidence of fire. Definitely a firebug. It would be very toxic in the neighborhood and volatile.
It got heated at times, but that meeting is still going on tonight.
That's right, Christine and Tom. That training center is evoking a lot of passion. Things got very tense at times. Council chambers had to be cleared out at one time. But right now, council members are still in there, if you can believe that. And the latest is they just passed that funding measure.
Stop Cop City, don't support this funding.
Hundreds of people signed up to speak out at the Atlanta City Council meeting. They opposed the planned training center for Atlanta first responders. Critics crowding the council chamber to say no to a proposal to the $90 million already allotted for the center.
Sorry, guys. I didn't want to do this. Clear the chamber.
The meeting at times turning heated. Protesters chanting.
You have to wait outside. Sorry, guys.
Council clearing the chamber.
You gotta wait outside. You gotta wait outside.
At issue, council will introduce a measure to authorize financing for the center.
It's the worst idea that city council and the mayor have come up with.
The city is slated to pay more than $33 million for its share. City council would raise bonds to pay for it.
For the residents of the city, they're absolutely opposed to this.
Neil Sardana is with the city.
Not all the residents, just a handful.
They want investment in affordable housing. They want better programs for youth, for education.
Our police facilities are dilapidated and are in need of renovation.
Councilman Michael Julian Bond says members are trying to balance public needs with the needs of first responders.
We do need to hear from the public what their positions are, how they feel about issues, but at the same time, we're still obligated to our employees to provide the best and most modern and safest facilities for them to train in.
Again, City Council just passed that funding measure. It now goes on to the Finance Committee. Live at City Hall, Christopher King, Fox 5.
Yeah, we knew it would be a spirited debate tonight about this.
How much ecological damage was done putting in the Michelle Obama Beltline? I wonder. And all those new buildings that are being built in West, right here in 04th Ward, and down there along the Michelle Obama Beltline. How much ecological damage was done there? Grateful for the recreation, Michelle.
Lanes. Finally is the main word, because they should have been doing this a long time ago.
I can't wait to see what this road is about to look like, because every time you're coming in here, you're going like, you're trying to dodge all the potholes.
Officials haven't said how long the project's expected to last. They are working to minimize the traffic impact by working through the night. Work runs from 7 at night until 5 in the morning, with days off on Fridays and Saturdays.
If you're traveling for the holiday weekend, you're not alone. AAA expects this could be the busiest Memorial Day weekend at airports since 2005. The organization expects an increase in air travel of 11% over last year. Highways will be crowded too, with AAA predicting 37 million people road tripping. For flyers, the busiest day at Hartsfield-Jackson International will be Thursday the 25th and Friday the 26th. 15 other airports. Passengers start by scanning their license, ID card, or passport. Then a camera on the device takes their photo, and the software does the rest. However, participation in the facial scans is optional.
What we are trying to do with this is aid the officers to actually determine that you are who you say you are.
Privacy advocates are calling for measures to prevent the tool from being used for anything other than ID checks in the future. TSA hopes to increase the number of scanners at its checkpoints by the end of this year.
A woman confronted a
female into the girls' bathroom at Harrison High School, then trapped her in a stall where the rape occurred. The warrant also states the female was telling him no and to stop multiple times. Court documents show the accused kept the girl in the bathroom for approximately 11 to 16 minutes before leaving. In all, there are 3 felony charges: sexual battery, child molestation, and rape.
That's horrifying.
Anthony is graduating this year, but he's worried because his little sister will soon be going to Harrison High.
It's worrying, and especially as my sister's coming here next year.
The Cobb County School District released a statement that reads in part, "We are aware of a warrant issued for one of our students alleging a heinous crime and are cooperating fully with the Cobb County Police Department."
Should be investigated, obviously, and if the person is guilty, could get punished.
The district spokesperson also said due to the ongoing investigation and laws regarding student privacy, they can't release any more details, but they're confident the campus is secure and safety of their students is their primary focus. Reporting live in Cobb County, Denise Dillon, Fox 5 News.
Very concerning for national average for regular unleaded gasoline at $3.53, just where it was a week ago. Keep in mind, last year at this time, ahead of the busy summer travel season, gas was well over $4 a gallon. To Wall Street, and a pretty calm start to the week for your money. The Dow, Nasdaq, and S&P 500 all gaining fractionally, and higher prices leading to higher credit card balances. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, total credit card debt in the first 3 months of this year standing at a record $986 billion. More people swiping their plastic to deal with inflation. Overall credit card balances are up around 20% from a year ago. That's business. I'm Lauren Simonetti.
3. Medics took the victim to the hospital. He's expected to survive. If you have any details, call APD.
A veteran support organization wants to see the accused Midtown shooter out of jail and into a mental institution. Deion Patterson's currently being held at the Fulton County Jail's Medical Observation Unit. Leaders with the Veterans for Justice organization say that's not good enough. Patterson faces serious charges that he opened fire in a medical building, killing 1 woman and injuring 4 others. Lieutenant Colonel Amos King says that Patterson needs meaningful intervention.
What caused that? It's not the norm of what he did. He went to the building according to the police department. After 2 minutes, he shot 5 people. That's not normal. Something triggered him.
Tomorrow, the Cobb County Police Department will release new video of the capture of Patterson. He was arrested about 8 hours after the shooting at an apartment complex in Marietta. Fox 5 will have
actively looking at several blocks of this crime scene to determine what actually happened while we were responding to this scene.
Police are looking to see why the suspected shooter was in the neighborhood. Authorities have not identified him.
a frightened assault at a Democratic congressman's district office in Fairfax, Virginia. Congressman Jerry Conley says that a man with a baseball bat walked into his Fairfax office, asked for him, and then assaulted 2 members of his staff. That suspect is in custody. The victims are being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Some staff members hid until officers arrived. Police haven't identified the suspect.
A new report alleges the FBI should not have launched a full probe into the connection between Donald Trump's campaign and Russia during the 2016 election. Special Counsel John Durham's 300-plus page report also says the FBI used unanalyzed and uncorroborated intelligence to launch the probe. Durham says it used a different standard when weighing concerns about alleged interference in Hillary Clinton's campaign. Durham did not recommend any new charges or recommendations about how the FBI handles politically charged investigations.
The president and congressional leaders will take on the
transform the United States of America. I don't. I want to improve the United States of America.
I think Donald Trump's one of the worst things to happen to this country.
When he was elected, I cried.
I think he's a racist.
Trump is real. I think he's a crazy nigga. I go, oh my, this is going to be a problem today.
So he cusses when he gets mad. He says things that are brutally honest.
This is ridiculous.
ridiculous. I don't think he's a typical politician at all. I think he's like that. We need to be secure. I love America, and I think that he does too.
I cannot forgive him.
Oh, he said something wrong and hurt somebody's feelings.
Well, let's get real here.
You know, and daring each other to jump off the cliff. It's a dangerous game. I think defaulting on our full faith and credit, any financial person would tell you that's very catastrophic.
He added that Republicans have a plan to handle the situation. House Republicans passed a bill to increase the debt ceiling, but also proposed spending cuts. Most of those cuts would affect issues Democrats care about, which explains the controversy. When pressed about the issue, the Deputy Treasury Secretary told CNN's State of the Union that President Biden had previously laid out a plan.
The president outlined his own plan for what we would do in terms of fiscal policy in March, where he talked about reducing the debt by $3 trillion by cutting things like subsidies to oil and gas companies.
However, in recent weeks, the Biden administration repeatedly said it wouldn't agree to Republicans' budget proposals. Default is expected to hit the U.S. within the next month if lawmakers don't agree on a budget.
Action Act, a new law banning imports from China's Xinjiang region over forced labor concerns. But Jinko and others have seen those shipments released in recent months. In response to the raid, Jinko said it was operating normally and engaging constructively with relevant agencies to understand the nature of the inquiry. The Chinese Communist Party has targeted 3 American companies in the last 3 months, citing security concerns. Their offices in China have been raided and some staffers were detained. Canadian intelligence sources are speaking out about Chinese infiltration, some of them in their boldest language yet. A former Canadian intelligence official on Thursday stated that for decades, every Canadian government has been compromised by the Chinese Communist Party in one way or another. Michelle Juno Katsaya spoke before the House of Commons Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs. Here's his comment.
I want to be very clear. We can prove that every federal government, from Mr. Mulroney to Mr. Trudeau, have been compromised by agents of the Communist China. Every government were informed at one point or another.
Mr. Mulroney served as Canadian Prime Minister in the 1980s, meaning the timeline described by the official covers the last 4 decades. But how did it reach this point? Juno Katsuya, former senior official with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, had this to say.
Not only the sitting government had been compromised, but all federal political parties have been compromised at one point or another. Every government chose to ignore CISA's warning
in the United States as well.
Or partisanship.
Juno Katsuya pointed out that Beijing's efforts are only one part of the problem.
It is also caused by our own candidates, elected official, political staff that are either naive or calculate intentionally to gain power with the assistance of the Chinese government.
Juno Katsuya further stated that around 2/3 of China's diplomats in Canada are spies and part of the CCP's intelligence gathering network. He made a recommendation that lawmakers should confirm they are not under anyone's influence and should be subject to restrictions on their actions on behalf of foreign states, even after leaving politics.
So what do you see happening, especially in the Middle East, between the U.S. and China, kind of taking the role there?
Well, we had a century, for lack of a better word, although we were very much dependent for a great deal of that on U.S. energy supply. And, obviously the United States was truly the only major factor in the world because of our military strength. And we talked about American exceptionalism. And then all of a sudden, we became energy independent. So not only were we not dependent on foreign oil, we had no dependence on them. We didn't need to import. We were importing about 25% of our daily requirement of oil from the Middle East, which meant we had to at least pay attention to them. And then all of a sudden, we get to a point where we see a production of oil starting to decrease because of administration policies here in the United States. Number one, it started day one with the shutdown of the Keystone Pipeline because so much of this oil that made us independent, number one, is coming out of the Bakken Shale and the formations up in North Dakota, South Dakota, and coming out of Canada. So all of a sudden, you can't get all of the natural gas or oil down to the refineries. There's only so many trucks, there's only so many trains, and there's no new pipeline. So all of that starts to disappear. Then we start to get into geopolitical issues. And who is standing there? But China. China, the largest consumer, and China, to this day, I can't believe it, but has no internal. When you look at the size of China, it's so hard to believe that they, for the most part, don't have any natural resource production. So they're there all of a sudden depending on the rest of the world's oil supply. So what happens? We end up with all the nuclear issues with Iran, and we sanction them. We end up with Russia in the Ukraine, and we sanction them. And now you look at those two major producers, and you look at, and then you combine that with the fact that we're no longer energy independent. So we're still dependent on getting foreign oil from somewhere. We've already cut off Venezuela as well. Well, China doesn't have the issues with these three major producers that we do. So they become a natural consumer for them. They become the major consumer, and the three countries that have been totally impoverished by our sanctions, all of a sudden are back at full production because China is, again, has a willingness. They have a supply problem, as we did, and now they've got a great source of it because Russia is not supplying all of Western Europe. They still, Western Europe is still, if you look at the NATO countries, if you look at the countries that arguably have been the non-communist countries, except that they have been so dependent on Russian oil. And they don't join the United States in support of Ukraine because they can't afford to alienate Russia. So all of a sudden, China, who is the big money behind all of this, now has an ability to cement relationships with these countries that are anathema to the United States, but are looking for a friend, and China can be that friend.
And so, what do you see happening, especially in the Middle East, between the U.S. and China, kind of taking the role there?
Well, we had a century, for lack of a better word, although we were very much dependent for a great deal of that on U.S. energy supply. And, obviously the United States was truly the only major factor in the world because of our military strength. And we talked about American exceptionalism. And then all of a sudden, we became energy independent. So not only were we not dependent on foreign oil, we had no dependence on them. We didn't need to import. We were importing about 25% of our daily requirement of oil from the Middle East.
Following me to the studio every week. Everything's been pretty steady as she goes. So can I get another bar on my cell now, Huawei? I said what you wanted me to say. Justin Trudeau was spotted with his new summer haircut recently, finally completing the trifecta of dumb, dumber, and dumbest. Vince McMahon announces his retirement from WWE amid sexual misconduct investigation. Allegations were that McMahon made men and women strip down, get oiled up, and film them as they wrestled. What is he being charged for? Wild Waterworks, an amusement park located near Hamilton, Ontario, is facing a backlash after setting weight restrictions on some of its rides. What an ingenious way to say no Americans. January 6th committee hearing drew 17.7 million viewers. We're close to the amount of people who saw the new Minion movie. No, not those Minions. The ones in The Rise of Gru. You know Gru, the evil mastermind who was trying to take over the world? Like Trump, but without the master or mind part. And likable. The summer travel season is underway, and while it sure is nice to get out, it's also becoming harder and harder to actually get anywhere. And here to root out the best route is our tour guide, Chuck.
Greetings, fellow traveler.
Hey, Chuck. Taking any trips lately?
I went to Las Vegas with you last week.
That was you?
I think so.
Did you get your luggage yet?
No. Travel is not only getting confusing, it's quickly becoming expensive, exhausting, and unreliable. Want to pack up the family and head for the horizon? No. Actually, you don't. Or at least you shouldn't. It's going to cost too much, take too long, and you're probably going to have to wait a week to get your bag back when you get home.
I got my bags, no problem. Did you have to fill out a bunch of paperwork when your bags didn't show up?
No paperwork.
Is there like an app or something?
I couldn't report my missing bag because it contained contraband.
Drugs?
Bringing drugs into Canada? No. You don't bring sand to the beach.
Oh, did you steal towels from your hotel room?
Yeah, of course. Plus the coat hangers, the toilet paper, and the coffee machine, but none of that's the problem.
So, what are you smuggling?
I had over 200 avocados in my bag. Sure, you can bring back cigarettes, cigars, even cigarellos, whatever the hell they are, but you can't bring back fruits or vegetables with you? Ridiculous! Perfume? Sure. Liquor? Please. Oversized novelty candy bars are pretty much mandatory to even get through customs nowadays. But you can't bring an avocado.
Is it a fruit or vegetable? Who? The avocado. Fruit or vegetable?
Oh, it's a fruit. But more importantly, it's nature's mayonnaise.
And
you want to lower your blood pressure? Put your favorite politician as a target and go away.